Next guest says that Hunter Biden is a national security risk and is a top issue for voters come 2022 and 2024. Joining us now is ranking member on the House Oversight and Reform Committee and member of the Education and Labor Committee, Kentucky Congressman James Comer. Congressman, great to have you back on this morning. I understand that you're going to lead the investigation into Hunter Biden if the GOP does take back the House in November. Do you still think that's going to happen, given what's going on with the Supreme Court leak and some of the bad press that not only the Supreme Court but Republicans are getting across the country right now?
Well, of course, the media isn't indicative of the attitude of the American people. The American people are very frustrated with Joe Biden's policies. They're frustrated with inflation, a lack of border security. I think this will play right into the hands of Republicans this fall. The American people, in my opinion, are going to turn out in droves and reject the Biden and left-wing agenda. So that will hopefully propel Republicans to be the majority in January. And yes, Hunter Biden is going to be a primary focus of the House Oversight Committee. You know, we all know that Hunter Biden is a shady business guy who sold access to his father for at least a decade. But now, with our investigations and the emails and now having access to the computer, we realize that Joe Biden could be implicated in some of the wrongdoings with Hunter Biden. If that's so, then not only is Hunter Biden a national security threat, but Joe Biden may be compromised.
Yeah, I know that Washington, I just think Washington is too special counsel happy anyway. Right. But if Republicans do take the House in November, is a special counsel on the table when it comes to looking into Hunter Biden? Because there are so many different angles that you need to look at. Mm-hmm.
I think it's certainly on the table, and I know a lot of Republicans have called for a special counsel. A lot of the conservative media have called for a special counsel. But I really believe that the House Oversight Committee, along with the House Judiciary Committee and some other committees of jurisdiction that have subpoena power, I believe that we can make a big dent into all of the Hunter Biden scandals. We have made a lot of progress in the last few months, piecing together not only the proof that Hunter Biden was selling access to then Vice President Joe Biden, right, but now proof that, in fact, Joe Biden was not being truthful and that he was very close with at least one of Hunter Biden's business associates, Eric Sherwin. In fact, that individual not only visited the White House 27 times when Biden was vice president, but also had access to Joe Biden's mail and his personal checkbook.
Yeah, and some of those visits were in the West Wing. Okay, I mean, you have to be somebody to be invited into the West Wing of the White House, again, 27 times. And Hunter Biden was on the board of a Ukrainian oil and gas company, natural gas company called Burisma. He'd never worked for 1 second in the industry, and he's on the board being paid $50,000 a month. For his expertise? No, you can only assume, and this is speculation, that it is because of his father, who was then the sitting vice president of the United States. Congressman, I want to talk about this Supreme Court leak. It leaked 1 week ago today, and we can talk about Roe v. Wade between now and when the court actually does issue their decision. We think at some point at the end of next month, the end of June. But how big a deal is it that we find out the identity of the leaker or leakers?
It's a huge deal. A lot of the liberal media are trying to say that there was no law broken and that the leaker is in fact a hero. That is completely not true. This was a violation of the law. The United States Code, Title 18, says that any theft of court documents is a crime. And also it's a crime to try to intimidate jurors. And that's what happened with this leak. This is clearly an intent to intimidate the Supreme Court justice. This is clearly an attempt to try to rally the liberal base, to try to intimidate the justices to delay or to alter their decision, or even to try to motivate the Democrat base to turn out in the fall, because every poll has shown that the Democrat base is not motivated by Joe Biden and his lack of a successful agenda.
Yeah, and it's not maybe to intimidate him for this case, but future cases. All future cases, maybe they won't rule the way they want to because they don't want to deal with people outside their homes scaring their kids and protesting on weekends. Congressman James Comer, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. Come back and see us again this week. We hope you will.